want to show you the arm piece of the Newborn Romper, just to demonstrate the right and wrong side of your crocheted fabric here. This currently, what I'm showing you that shows the defined ribbing is the right side. This is the side of the crochet piece that will be shown on the outside of the romper. This is the back side, and as you can tell, there's just not the definition in the stitches. There's no ribbing, and so there's a definite difference. This is the front side. There's a definite ribbing that you can see through it. All the pieces have been crocheted, and I am currently showing you the main piece, which is the bodice and the legs of the romper. This is sewn as one piece, and it's sewn from side to side. So you begin over here and crochet across. These cutouts on the top are going to be for the arms. Each of these long sections here are the legs, with this being between the legs and this coming together between the legs as well. The next step is going to be the actual bodice of the romper. Now, I zoomed in earlier to show you, or zoomed out earlier to show you the shape of the bodice. This is all going to be color coordinated within the pattern, so you don't get confused on what section I'm working on. So this right here is the section between the legs, and this is what we want to sew together to create that little curve in the bottom. So just take your yarn. I usually turn my stuff upside down so that I can kind of see it better. And I am simply going to, now mohair yarn is a little trickier to sew with. Typically you can just bring it through the backs of the stitches here, but you don't want to create big holes. So instead of bringing it through the bottom of the stitches, I'm actually going to bring it right through the center. So this is the bottom of the stitches where I would typically sew, like bring my needle through those bottom parts of the stitches. I'm going to bring it right through the center of the actual stitch itself. So right here, I'm going to kind of pull it through, and I'll secure this with a knot when I'm all done, completed. And then I'm going to bring it through the next center of the next stitch on that one. And I'm going to kind of pull it tighter as I go. I don't want to wait till I'm all the way done, because sometimes they stick the mohair will stick together and you don't want it to get stuck right away. And then I'm going to kind of come up here to the next one up here and bring it through, and then bring it over here to these slip stitch rows. So as you can see, I'm kind of grabbing the actual fabric itself and not working through the main or the very ends of those stitches. And then I'm going to kind of work my way up through here, again going through those stitches and not just grabbing the outside, which is what you typically do on most crochet pieces. So I'm just going to kind of work my way. As you can see, I'm going to kind of show you what I'm doing here. Again, I started right here. I'm going to work my way up and down, and then I will secure these both. I'll just kind of pull them tight. So I'm going to kind of work this quick here. So I've worked all the way up and all the way down, and I'm just going to kind of grab this from the beginning side and just kind of pull it. Same with this side, pull it. Okay, and now our pieces are kind of coming together. There's going to be a slight hole right here. If we were to just tie this knot right here together, there would be a hole there. So we're going to instead now, we're going to kind of pick these up and kind of whip stitch this together a little. Whip stitch is when you go from the outside in. So you go under the crochet piece and then work your way up towards the top, going from the bottom to the top. And I'm just kind of grabbing whatever looks like it might be loose. And this is also a spot where if you notice one section where maybe a loose stitch might be, you can kind of hide it while doing this as well. What I mean by that is if you notice like here maybe there's an extra stitch that's loose, Just make sure that's coming through on the back side. You can grab that with your needle as well. You don't need to do this a ton, just a little bit. So there was that loose stitch right there. So I'm going to kind of pull that right now and kind of just hide that. Okay, and then you can just kind of, again, take both ends and just kind of pull it a little bit. You don't want to pull too tight because you don't want to rip the fabric. And there's that ornery little one right there. Okay, and then you can just kind of come in here and secure it with a knot. And then you're going to hide or bury your ends. And when you bury your ends, you just need to go through the stitches a few times both directions. And right here you got extra fabric, so that should be pretty easy. And then you're just going to cut off the ends. And I always like to cut the ends off on the inside fabric. Okay, and I'll bury that other end in a little while. So it doesn't look the prettiest right now. Again, this is the back side. This is going to be the back. And once we stitch those legs together, you're not even going to really notice that that seam hardly at all, because it's going to be underneath, kind of like a little bump in the bum right there. So the next step we're going to do, and I'm just going to kind of show you how I'm going to fold this, and then I will come back once it's completed. So this time we're actually going to, we're going to flip it over so the right side's facing us, and we are going to fold the leg pieces, show you one side. We're going to fold the leg pieces together like this. And you're going to start at the bottom and crochet up, or not crochet up, sorry. You're going to sew with your yarn and needle, crochet up, and then you're going to fasten off, and then you're going to come to this other side, same thing, fold this over, start at the bottom and crochet up and fasten off. Okay, so I've already sewn up the seams of the legs, and these are going to be footed. It's going to be a footed romper, so we're actually going to close up the end of the toe as well. So I already did it this one, but I'm going to show you how to do it on this other leg. And you're basically going to just take your needle and weave it in and out of the row ends. It's very easy. Just kind of make sure you're grabbing the stitches, the very last stitches of the row. You're going to do this all the way around. I've worked in and out of the rows all the way around the bottom of the foot, and then you're just going to take your thread and just going to pull it, and it's going to close up. Okay, simple as that. And that is gonna, and then you're just gonna grab some threads down here, tie a knot to secure it, and then you're gonna weave in those ends. And then you've got the bottoms. They're already footed and they're closed up nice and tight, so those little toes will stay warm. So the next step, and I'm gonna bury my thread later. The next step I'm gonna have you do is at the top of the romper, we're gonna do the shoulders. So if you look at the first flap, you'll notice there was a little dip right here. This is the front, like where the neckline is. So we're just going to sew this stretch right across here. So you're just going to line it up again, right sides facing one another. You're going to line up those shoulders, and you're just going to stitch across from the out of the shoulder in towards the inside of the shoulder. Okay, so we've got the leg sewn together, the bottom sewn together, and we've completed the shoulders. Again, the shoulders are going to be a little bit wide, but that is okay, because once you sew onto the sleeve, that width on the shoulders will actually kind of drape down a little bit, creating more of a shoulder. So that's perfectly fine. So we have our opening here for the arms. Now the opening for the arms is fairly large, and then here is our arm sleeve that is much smaller. So what we're going to do is you're actually going to just kind of stretch this out a little bit as you sew it together. Okay, we're coming back with the arms already sewn on. So the arms are sewn on, the legs are sewn together, the bottom of the toes have been sewn together. So all we have left really is this bottom section right here between the legs that we need to kind of fix. remember on the back side, we had all these jagged edges and we closed those up together to kind of create the rounded part of the bottom. We're basically going to do that same thing with each side of the front to match up with that back side. So I've already wove this through. This strand of yarn started up here and I just wove it through the ends of these stitches. Then I'm just going to kind of pull it to gather. You don't need to pull it tight, just to gather so it's more of a straight edge. That'll make it easier to sew when we are completed, or when we're sewing up the bottom. All I'm doing right now is I'm going to knot this to secure that in place. And we are going to sew the bottom together. Again, we have the wrong sides facing us. I'm going to put this flap in the front and this right here, and we are just going to take our needle and start doing, I'd like to use the mattress stitch, going in from the inside, bringing it out to the outside, from the top to the bottom, back and forth, and we're going to go all the way across the bottom here, sewing just like this. So this will be totally sewn together and closed up. Okay, the baby romper is pretty much completed at this point. I have turned it so that it's right side out, and we've got our cute little arms right here, and our little closed toes feet for little booties here. So all we have left to do is to sew on some buttons that will keep this closed. We want to make it easy to be able to place the baby in here, get its feet in, and then get some little buttons on here. So I have picked out these little neutral colored buttons, and you're just going to want these placed evenly. And I just kind of eyeball it. I don't actually measure it and make sure it's exact. And you can either do 4 or 5. I think I might just do 4 to make it easier. You're just going to kind of place these on here. Now you're going to use the row of half double crochet as your buttonholes. These buttons are small enough that they will slide right through, so that you can actually just use those and button them through just like that. Now if you noticed, when I had my buttons placed, there is a small stretch through here that is still open, and you don't want to have this flap here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this yarn, I'm going to put my yarn needle on it, and I'm just going to, as you can tell, there's the ribbing edge right here, and this is a ribbing edge. I am just going to stitch this ribbing edge right up to about 1 inch below your first button. And once that is completed, your romper set is 100% ready to go.